we go. Testing. Let's see here. Yo. There we go. All right, guys. Cool. So, first off, I'm going to be breaking down some pretty deep shit here. And I want everyone here to help me kind of understand where they're at. So as I'm talking, just kind of ask questions, as well as just comment below if you're live. Give me some hearts, give me some traction here. You know, I couldn't give this stuff away without your help, especially when, you know, social media is as saturated as it is. So just want to say I appreciate everybody. Go ahead and shoot me a heart. That way I know everyone's live, and then we'll get started. Cool. So pretty much what I'm going to be breaking down here is the 3 conversation types, sales conversations that you can have over DM, right? So outbound, inbound, all the people that come through your messaging inbox, and how to actually handle these. All right, there's different types of people, there's different types of markets. There's a lot of different nuances here that you need to understand. This is why one script isn't going to work with every person that you're getting. Okay, so the main component that you're going to get here, like the main thing that's going to change your messaging just from this training alone, is the fact that you're going to know how to identify who you're talking to as one of these. So you can always come back to this document and notice that, hey, this is somebody that I know exactly how to handle, right? And you're going to have so many different people. And this is only 3, but these are the 3 most common, okay? These are the 3 most common types of conversations that you're going to have. You're going to notice all kinds of different other people, but this is seriously going to be like the most. All right, so I'm going to go into the hidden problem conversation, okay, how to handle these, the curious buyer conversation, how to handle them, as well as the hot but fleeting conversation, okay? So super simple. We're boxing them into 3 different categories here. But you're going to be able to mix and match some of these processes and kind of frameworks between them. All right. So type number 1. Well, let's see what we got here. Cool. We are on track. Let's go. Type number 1 is the hidden problem conversation. Okay. This is somebody that you're talking to who is a bit of a skeptic, somebody who isn't ready yet. Okay. This is the type of person we want to be patient with. Okay. So these are very common in competitive markets, okay? They're competitive, for example, like the coaching industry, the agency space, I don't know, like not fitness or anything, but this is the one where people are more susceptible to getting messaged all the time. And this is probably going to be the most common kind of process that you're going to have to follow, especially when it comes to an outbound, brand new person type of conversation, okay? So this archetype essentially needs trust and rapport with someone before actually disclosing information, all right? They're not going to disclose information very fast, which information is what makes you is what allows you to transition, right? So you need to realize that this is going to be more of a longer process for this type of person, and they will trickle out information little by little, and I'll discuss what that looks like. Okay, the biggest barrier for them is skepticism. Okay, like I said, this is your more skeptical market. They've bought things in the past. They're a little bit more sophisticated, but they're used to it, right? Very, very big in like B2B sales, marketing, okay, things like that. Also, they have an obvious problem, but they won't usually admit to it early on, okay? So they have an obvious problem. You can see it clear as day, but they're not admitting to it. And the only way that you're going to persuade them to get on a call with you is for them to admit it. All right. So how to handle this type. Let's go into this. Right. Give me a temp chat, guys. Let me know how you're feeling. If you want this document, just comment doc below, and I'll send that over to you. Just comment doc below. Right. Give me a temp chat, guys. Let me know how you're feeling. If you want this document, just comment doc below. All right. So first things to focus on. So focus on displaying non-needy behavior, okay? Non-neediness. Like, I'm not here for anything. And it's not that you're displaying it obnoxiously. You need to display it in a way that's very neutral, right? So it's doing less is more. Okay, so first things first is pulling back a bit when they display any sort of problem or interest to show that you aren't overeager. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to get them to open up more later on. Okay? Why? Because this is a trust building technique. It's called the pullback. Okay? The only way for you to display any sort of non-needy behavior or a higher level of status and a higher level of authority is to have some sort of obvious pullback. Okay? Pulling back when they're saying, hey, like even when, and here's the thing, this is something that you're going to have to do, and this is going to be emotional and hard for you to do, especially if you're just starting out. Most people, they want to jump on the phone call because they need to, okay? And if you don't need to, it's going to show them that you're better to be trusted, okay? Because people that need things aren't very trustworthy to them, okay? So this is going to get them to open up more later in the conversation, like I said, and this is the way that we're going to get them to open up is to show them that and display that we're not as into the conversation, okay? So 2 is make all of your messages feel conversational by relating back with the prospect and telling stories. So if they feel like they're being interrogated, they're not going to open up as much because it's going to look salesy. Okay, this is all coming down to breaking down sales resistance and differentiating yourself from the other people that are incentivized to get a call. Okay, so when you do a pullback, okay, do a quick pullback, then they'll start to open up a little bit over time. And then when you start asking more of those harder questions, you have to add a conversational element to those conversations or to those questions. So rather than saying, how many leads are you getting per month? What's your next, how much are you making per month? Do you have a marketing agency? Are you looking for marketing? Are you right? None of that works because it's so interrogative, right? Nobody wants to have that conversation because they know what's going on. So what you can do is you can coat your conversation and what I call buffer your conversation so that you're not like putting up a bunch of red flags to them, okay? So instead of asking that question like that, what we do is we ask a question by saying, like telling a quick story or relating it back, like relating what they answered back to us and back to one of our life stories or something, right? So if they say, yeah, business is okay, ever since I moved out to Texas, it hasn't been as good. Oh, dude, same. Like, I actually had a friend who also went to Texas and was saying the same thing, right? But anyways, so is this something that you're building, you're scaling, or is this something you're just kind of keeping as like a side income? Oh, yeah, no, it's more something I'm trying to scale. Dope, man, nice. How do you do that? Like, what's your scaling technique? Do you run ads or do you all organic? So it's ways to ask questions that are so conversational and people actually want to answer because it's pleasant. Okay. So the next one is allow the client to open up over time instead of rushing to the call. Okay. So here's kind of how this is going to work, right? So, you want to allow them to open up. And when I say open up, it's to disclose more investment and more information. And you want to get some types of investment from them. When I say investment, I mean like how much time do they spend with you and invest with you? How much information do they invest into the conversation, right? Are they investing over time? Okay. So what you want to do is identify 2 to 3 problem indicators before digging any deeper. Okay. 2 to 3 problem indicators. And an indicator is like, look, there's a problem, but they're not 100% saying blatantly like, I have a problem, can you help me? They're just it's kind of in their language. Okay. So let's say, hey, like, what do you do for business? How's it going for you or whatever? And they say, yeah, man, it's okay. Not the best, but I'm working day by day, blah, blah, blah. Well, that in itself is an indicator that maybe it's not as good, right? So instead of attacking that indicator, you want to actually display that you're not 100% concerned with that. And you're actually having more of a conversation. So when they display that they have a specific problem, right, and you skip over it, but you take note, right? And I'm saying take note because you're going to use it later on. So you get 2 to 3 to 4 different problem indicators, and you realize that this conversation can very easily transition into a sales conversation. So hold it as it is, right? So then when you dig deeper, when you do dig into the actual problems that they're saying they have, be sure not to be too direct or make it feel like an interrogation. Okay. So like I said, buffer a little bit, kind of start to slowly transition your language from conversational to actually looking to see if you can help. Okay. And it'll be a very slow transition. Okay. It's a very smooth, slow transition. And this is the type of conversation that most people have, that most people actually have the hardest time with because it takes patience. Okay. So the next part here is actually getting them to think. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're not just going to ask questions as a reaction. You want to avoid reactionary question asking. It has to be very, very good questions, and good questions make people think. Okay, they're different, they're unique. You got to ask questions that aren't so bland that they've heard before. Okay, and the way you do that is asking very concrete, specific questions. Okay, you want to ask concrete questions versus very abstract, broad questions. Okay, that's when you start to get really deep. This is the next step, is really getting them to think a little bit. Okay, because it'll stick out in their mind. 2 is if you feel that you are leading the conversation, don't be afraid to challenge them. Okay, so there's going to be a point. Okay, there's going to be a point where you start leading them. Okay, and it goes from conversational, where you're asking a question, they're asking a question, you're asking a question, they're asking a question, and all of a sudden they're just answering, and they're just talking, and they're complaining, and they're venting, and you're just, interesting. And then you ask another question, and then it gets to a point where you're asking very short but very concrete questions, and you're getting a deeper understanding, and that's your leverage point. Okay, that's going to be more of your leverage point. All right. So this is the 3 ways to handle a hidden problem conversation. This is the non-needy behavior. Okay, being able to display non-needy behavior, allowing the conversation to open up over time, and then getting them to think. Okay. Also, if you want this document with these frameworks, just comment doc and I will send that over to you. Okay, type 2 is the curious buyer. Okay, this is actually a buyer. It's an inbound lead most of the time. Okay, but it's typically somebody who is so curious about they're shopping and they're so curious. It's almost like when you walk into a clothing store and you get kind of attacked by the salesperson, and they're like, okay, what were you looking to buy? And they start suggesting things, right? And you're like, no, I'm just looking around. I want to be in control of my experience here at this clothing store. When you go to a clothing store and you want to be in control of what you buy and you don't want to be sold. So think of that dynamic next time you have this curious buyer conversation. Okay. So this curious buyer conversation, this curious buyer conversation is, I didn't mean to put that there. It's very direct and to the point. okay, about their needs, problems, and their wants. They will reach out to you like, hey, I'm struggling. Like they'll reach out to me and they say, hey, I'm struggling with sales. How can you help me? Can you help me with this, this, and this, and da 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 da? Right? Okay, cool. Well, that's the first thing that's the first indicator. Okay. The next one is it makes it very obvious that they want help, but they won't make it easy. Okay, they're going to say, hey, I need help, but they're not going to make it easy for you to help them. They're just going to keep asking questions and keep trying to be in control. Okay, and then the third one is they need to feel in control of the conversation. Okay, you'll notice that they need it because every time you try to control it, they're going to fight you. Okay. Next thing here is how you're actually going to be able to handle this. Okay, so one is focus on pulling back without making them feel like they've lost control. So I'll show you this in a second here. So in this instance, the pullback isn't too much about like being non-needy. It's not to look that way, but it does that. It helps with that. But it's actually to be able to regain control over the conversation and actually to be able to regain control over the entire relationship in a whole. Okay. And then two is always ask permission to ask questions. Okay. So essentially the way that you're gonna be able to pull back is with very strategic permission asking. Okay, you're gonna ask permission and then you're gonna give feedback or challenge their beliefs to be able to maintain control. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. Sometimes what you'll do is you say, hey, appreciate you reaching out to me. Just so I'm not wasting your time, because, I respect your time here. I just want to ask a couple questions just to make sure that this is a good fit. Is that okay with you? And if they say no, right, they have a problem with losing control over, like in sales context. Be like, look, like regardless, say, hey, I totally understand. Regardless of like if I can help you or not, like I have a network full of people that could absolutely help you. But I just got to kind of know, right? And I know what you're looking for, but it helps me a lot. And they say, yeah, totally, for sure, yeah. Ask me a couple questions. Another thing that I'll do is when I start asking permission about these questions, or ask permission to ask questions, I'll like even drop in like a risk reversal. I'll say, hey, I promise it won't take all day. I won't spend all day asking these questions. I promise. I know you're busy. And they'll be like, yeah, totally. Because that might be their big objection to actually wanting to go through that process, right? So give them some time frame. Give them an understanding that you're not going to be here forever. It's kind of like if you walk up to a girl and you start talking to her, her biggest fear is that you're going to stay with her for the whole time, right? And you're not going to leave her alone. So you just say, hey, look, I'm popping in for 5 minutes and I'm leaving. Cool. That's the same thing you want to do here, all right? Like I said, if you want this doc, like I'll send this over to you, no cost. Just drop a comment doc below and I'll send it. Okay, so the next one here is suggestive selling. All right, so the next thing that you're going to need to do with this type of buyer is you're going to have to suggest, just like in the clothing store, you're going to have to suggest what they would like and what they would want. And this is a super powerful tool to use because it also builds a lot of trust when you're not like selling them like the big package or whatever, right? So rather than saying like, yeah, I can help you, you want to ask permission to give them a suggestion on what they should do, right? So like I said, if they don't cooperate, you don't have the trust and authority yet, okay? So you can pull back and move it back into the question asking phase here, or you can drop some kind of like advice or give them a lead magnet or something to keep that authority up, right? The next one is if they do not if they do cooperate, you can suggest a call framed as like a consultation or diagnosis to see what the actual problem is. This conversation, actually, this type of buyer is very common in like the agency space, okay? The like local businesses and like, traditional businesses, right? These are the people that are like, okay, how can you help me? Just get to the point. What are we gonna do here? And they'd be like, hey, totally. Let me ask you a couple questions before we go into this, right? So these are the two ways that the main things that you're going to want to keep in mind here when talking to that type of buyer, because they're like control freaks. And as long as you're giving them the illusion of control with like those time risk reversals, those the sales risk reversals by saying, hey, I could refer you to somebody, or I could you know or I'm not going to be here for long, whatever. It'll get them to actually open up a little bit. So the next one is type 3, is the hot but fleeting conversation. This is very common in the B2C or biz ops space. Okay, so if you're selling like, I don't know, like an Amazon automation store, or you're selling like fitness coaching, or you're selling like B2C, these people are like super emotional. Okay, so one is they're an open book. Okay, they have a lot of pain and urgency, and they are extremely emotional. Okay, and you need to realize that you cannot talk to them the same way you would talk to these. Okay, you cannot talk to them the same way. You have to change up pace, and you have to change up kind of the way that you speak. Okay, you got to kind of dumb it down, and you got to slow it down. And you got to talk. You got to text like a teenage girl would text. Okay, so one here is you got to be fast. Okay, so these prospects are in a heightened emotional state, so you need to let them vent and fuel the emotion while simultaneously qualifying them. Okay, it's because the big thing, and this is the key word here, with B2C, you need to qualify. If you're selling a high ticket offer, let's say you're selling a high ticket, let's say you're selling a high ticket fitness offer, you're gonna want to qualify the absolute, you're gonna want to qualify them like financially, job, all this type of stuff, because somebody who works at McDonald's cannot afford like a $3,000 to $5,000 fitness package. Like they're just not gonna. Okay, so you got to make sure you're qualifying really heavy, because you're gonna get a lot of volume in the B2C space. You're going to get a lot of volume, you're going to get a lot of prospects, but there's going to be a lot of unqualified kind of crap that flies through. So you got to ask questions like, okay, what do you do for work? Like, are you married? Where do you live? What's your, you don't want to be like super obvious about it, but you have to qualify in asking your questions. So your questions could actually be very quick and to the point, but they have to make them think, and it has to put them into a more of an emotional state so that they stick in and actually vent. Okay. The next one is you don't want to log off too early here. Okay. So once they're in a heightened emotional state, it's only a matter of time before they start to cool down. So when you have somebody who's just spilling their guts, telling you all of their problems, don't log off Facebook. Like, stay on, keep asking questions, keep getting them to answer and fall into your sales process here, right? So that's huge. The timing is key with this hot but fleeting conversation. The next one is non-judgmental and understanding language. Okay, you're gonna need to be non-judgmental with this B2C type market, because they are really opening up more personal information as opposed to like financial businessy information. Okay. Also, if you guys want this document, comment doc below and I will send that over to you ASAP. Okay. So the second this prospect feels like they're being judged or you're being condescending, like, or anything, like, they're gonna be gone forever. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to offer the call at the peak of their ranting. So this is when you're going to offer that call. So one is you want to use the information that they disclose as leverage to book the call. So for example, it's like, let's say they give you like a paragraph long rant. Okay, and they're just like ranting, and they're like, I can't take it anymore. I need to lose weight. I'm so tired. I'm sick of it. I'm da-da-da-da-da. And then you go, okay, so is this something that you're looking to get fixed sooner or later down the road? So this is your micro agreement that you're going to get, right? You're going to give some kind of micro agreement, and they're going to need to tell you that they are urgently looking to get it solved, so that when you book the call, you have a very, very high chance of getting them to close. Okay, so is this something you're looking to get fixed sooner or later down the road? And they say now, of course. Why? Because why would they say not now? Well, if they said not now, then you can call them out on why they just said like, hey, it seems to be such a painful thing for you. Like, I'm just curious, how come you're not willing to get this fixed now, right? And then you can really further qualify them. And then the last part here is like, are you open to booking a call to see like how that would look? And they say, yeah, of course, right? Because now you've micro agreement, right? And now you can book the call very, very easily because you piqued their emotional state. Keep in mind, this hot but fleeting, they're a pain in the ass, but they're very easy to book in, and you can fill a calendar pretty quickly, right? With this transition here, I would do a lot of direct transitions for the B2C market as opposed to like the giving advice or just getting somebody to a call for like no reason, right? Just book in calls very directly, just like this, saying like, are you open to booking to see how it would look, how to get your shit fixed now? Yes, perfect. Book that call, and then don't worry about anything else, right? Don't just do whatever it takes to get a call. Like just book calls with good people. So, all right, guys. If anybody has any questions, I will go into a little bit of Q&A here. But also, if you want this document, just comment doc below. I'll give you guys about a minute to think of questions, comment, and I will get that over to you. Shoot me a heart if you like this, please. Just so I know. Just so I know if I did a good job. All right. Looks like that's it. Appreciate you all for tuning in. I will see you all soon.